All right, we're live on the pod.
All right, what one is this now? We're at 11 or
Maybe?
25? Yeah, I don't know. It's been a
At
lot.
this point, we just stopped counting. Hi, everyone. This week, we thought we'd share a little bit about certification, healthy and sustainable building certification. There's a lot of different certification programs out there. So we just wanted to share some details about the one that we're following the most closely. And John's going to talk a little bit too about like other options that are out there and other things that we're pursuing, because health and sustainability are super important to this project. And there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, so just to kind of set the scene a little bit more, there are a lot of sustainability buzzwords, go green, trying to be as eco-friendly as possible and things like that. You may hear about certifications now and again, LEED, WELL, LBC. There's a lot of different ones going around out there. If you compare this to the agricultural industry, where you have one, call it green alternative, which is organic. You have organic or conventional. Here we have a whole slew of different, buzzwords and certifications. So sorting through that and making it adaptable to a home buyer, there's a lot to sort through. So I wanted to kind of go through just kind of a 10,000 foot view of what these are. And if you have other questions, feel free to reach out in the chat or our email or the website. I'd love to get your feedback on this. But
we'll demystify certifications in 5 minutes or less. I was like, last week's podcast was our shortest. It was the closest to 5 minutes, 6.5 minutes.
All right, well, hopefully this one won't be too long either. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. So here's just like a quick overview of a few of the ones I've worked through. LEED is the most popular, came to fruition in about the early 2000s and has really taken off. And it's really been excellent to kind of set the standard of what is sustainability across various aspects. Envision is the horizontal counterpart, where LEED is for vertical buildings, Envision is for horizontal transit and vehicle traffic and energy plants and anything that is conventional civil infrastructure. WELL is about health and well-being, both in the office and at home, or in the home and in airports. I've seen this used.
Yeah, WELL's, it's not new, but it's newer than LEED.
Right. And WELL, you might see if you walk into a bank recently, that became very, very prevalent during the pandemic. They came out with a health rating system. So you might see these plaques on the walls of buildings periodically, or you might not notice them at all. So I wanted to kind of introduce some of these a little bit further. Fitwell is kind of a little deviation from WELL, a little bit more of a streamlined approach. And then Zero Home Ready Homes by the EPA and Energy Star. Those two in particular are very applicable to Veridian because they are actual rebates that we are going to apply for and help reduce the cost of the homes to the home buyers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those are really important, but pretty straightforward. Just the fact that we are making these homes solar powered and we're using energy efficient appliances, we're getting credit for this, and also being energy efficient with the insulation and thermal conductivity of the envelope of the homes. There's a whole slew of criteria that we have to abide by, but we are really going above and beyond both of those. And the reason for that is that we're really leaning on LBC. Living Building Challenge really kind of takes things to the next level. But I wanted to just try to dive into LEED a little bit, just to kind of set the scene a little bit more. So because it's the most widely used, I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper here. And there's some overlapping categories with LEED, Envision, and LBC. So most of them have criteria on where the project is located for both. Here it's called sustainable sites, location, and transportation. There's also criteria focused on water conservation, efficiency, also rainwater harvesting. Then there's also categories on energy, categories on materials. And in LEED, there is another category on indoor environmental quality, improving the health and low toxicity of indoor environments. So the way it works is each one of these, you can see there is a point structure associated with each credit. The more points you get, the more that accumulates to your overall score, and then the building will be certified across one of these platforms, either silver, gold, or platinum being the best. And a lot of municipalities have actually started to introduce this as a standard. So for instance,
I was going to do that too.
So in Santa Monica, for instance, most recently I believe they put in legislation that was LEED Platinum.
Oh, wow.
That was their standard, and then now they're even up that to they have to be net zero. So they're going above and beyond LEED Platinum.
And that doesn't mean they have to get certified, right? They just have to build to those standards.
Right. And then, yeah, exactly. So to get the whole certification, there's an application fee. You have to get a verifier to review your documents. It's a lot of paperwork to go through, a lot of cost to the builder. So some builders just, basically build to these standards. They've incorporated, they've gotten one or two projects certified, so they know how to do it, but they're not certifying every single project. But in order to get that plaque on the wall, for apartments or office buildings that will increase the price of the rent, you have to go through a certification process. So the reason that I wanted to kind of start with LEED is to show you how much better LBC is, because LEED and just kind of general sustainability, environmental conservation, is really delegated on to being less bad, to mitigating impacts, reducing your footprints. So LEED, for instance, will probably fall in this spectrum between green and high performing green, where you have kind of the silver and gold to the platinum. So yes, it's less bad, and your conventional building code would be, really bad. These are your high carbon intensive concrete, heavily energy inefficient buildings. So now LBC leads to making a positive impact, and that's something that
handprint, right, rather than a footprint.
What's that?
They call it it's like a handprint.
A handprint,
yeah. Your footprint, it's your handprint, and that's like
you're actually you're making things better. That's a great visual. So leading towards positive environmental impacts, Jason McLennan came up with the Living Building Challenge, conceptualized around a flower. And a flower gets all of its energy from the sun, makes its structure from materials within its area, captures water and uses water within its footprint. And it's beautiful to look at. And it also helps other flowers flourish by providing pollen to other neighboring plants. So trying to keep that image of a Living Building Challenge building is a flower. You can think of a Living Community Challenge as a forest. It's a collection of flowers, it's a garden. And that's what we are using to build Veridian. And that's really why I wanted to get involved in this project, because it's such a beautiful image. It's the best way to build, trying to be positive of all aspects, not only where we're building, ensuring that we're building on existing gray or brown infrastructure. So that would be like a large parking lot or an existing dilapidated shopping center, or
land that has been used for other things before and not just like
exactly a brownfield would be kind of like a landfill or a dry cleaners or something that has polluted the soil. So for Veridian, it used to be a young juvenile detention center, and the city knocked that down and then put it out to bid, so that we're repurposing that existing infrastructure and building a beautiful, sustainable community, rather than chopping down a forest, building on a green pasture. So this is really the intention here, is to limit sprawl, build density, make neighborhoods more walkable, more healthy and just. So again, LBC has categories for place. They also have categories on water, energy, and materials. But where they deviate a little bit is the emphasis on health and happiness. This is very similar to the whole criteria of well and fit well, and incorporating those ideologies. And then beauty, taking it a step further with biomimic and biophilic elements, making sure that when you're inside the home and walking around the community, you constantly have a connection to nature, both visually and parasympathetically. You feel very in tuned into your environment. So something, it's very a passion of mine. It's been kind of the driving force of my career, and now we are building this project into fruition. Not only just being solar powered and sustainable that way, but really hitting on all aspects of sustainability throughout. And this criteria has been a guiding force for a lot of our decision making, both in the design, how we're procuring our materials, what we're procuring, and all sorts of other decisions that we're making, trying to keep this a focus. So we're grateful to have this as kind of a guiding light during this process.
It's a very rigorous certification program. There's a lot of things that are required. There's different levels of certification, much like LEED has their different levels. But I think, one of the main differences I see, and there are many, LEED, it's based on your projected performance. And LBC, I believe, because I'm not quite yet certified. You measure after your build. So
yeah,
you
there's an auditing process, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that you weren't just planning to build, and your models aren't going to tell you, oh, it's going to be fine. Like, in actuality, your building is performing the way that you designed it to actually perform.
Yeah, so we're really excited to show this, and we encourage you to look into the Living Future Institute, their website. Look up the information on Red List free materials. You can actually see all the really bad materials that most buildings have. We will not have any of those materials. And there's just a lot of other great stuff that LBC has baked into their criteria that we are using to build this community. And we're really excited about this, and we're happy to share it. So
and some cool case studies of other communities as well. And I'll put a link to ILFI.
Excellent. Any final thoughts, Sarah?
No.
Sustainability certifications in 5 minutes or less.
There's more that we didn't even mention. There's so many different certification programs, but
yeah, and there's so much stuff, within this criteria, the certification, that we're excited to show you. So throughout these various podcasts, I will go through a little bit more detail on a specific category here and there, and that's how I'm kind of guiding these discussions when we do these deep dives. So stay tuned for what's to come.
All right. Thanks, y'all. See you next week.